Hi, I'm host Eric, host Talking Famous People here with famous person Nick Sharon. Sharon?
Sharon.
Sharon.
Sharon. I do sometimes go Sharon or something like that, spice it up a little bit. Having a
When
female's first name as the last name is, I don't know. It's a bad joke that I use in sales, and people like it and laugh, and it's just a
it's you're schmoozing.
schmoozing. Yes.
Right. Gotcha. Schmoozing is important for an ENTP.
I want to tell you why it's important to me, and then I think this could be a good way to start this off. So, for me, if I have something I need to fucking talk to you about, you better listen. And there's nothing worse than coming up with a brilliant idea that is all of a sudden becomes simple, but it was a bit abstract, so people didn't think to go there. And if you don't set it if you don't set it up properly, meaning um, people don't some people don't really like new ideas or something that's different or
You think?
being manipulated. That's the best way to say it what it is. So you gotta give them something, and schmoozing is giving them something. It's the this is over here, but this is over here at the same time. You'll look at this one, why this one's coming your way.
Right. And of course, schmoozing would seem to be operative on a couple of different levels. On the one hand, if people describe you as schmoozing, then you're probably not doing it very well, right? It's like we might describe each other as that's what we're doing because we kind of understand internally that's what we're doing a little bit. But I'd like to think, in general, well, I think one of the advantages an HB has in schmoozing is that they're more believable in general because they so often display um, fuck no. So it's like, well, how schmoozy could you be if you could also be so abrasive? It kind of balances us out and makes us maybe more believable as schmoozers.
Right. Well, for me, it's interesting being an ENTP in sales because, and this is, I think this we had a long fucking I had a that Barry guy. I like him.
Oh, me
20,
too. Me too.
22 years. He's 22 years old. And he sums up what the fuck I'm trying to say really well sometimes. And he also keeps it a bit pointed. When do you find it easy to get often a land that you didn't even know where you fucking you didn't mean to go there, and you're there and you're still having to
Yeah, I mean
yeah.
for sure. The thing is, what what I think when in the best case scenario, I've successfully been limited by axiomatic restraints. So I mean, wherever it is I'm going, it's going to end up being a safe place. At least nowadays, I wasn't always like that. I know where not. I know which areas not to go to in general. And metaphysically, I mean, when presenting media, for example. So I don't really worry about going with my gut because my gut's been trained not to go here, not to go there, not to go there.
Because you've gone there enough times.
Yeah, right. Learn the hard way. We learn the hard way, don't we? We do not learn things the easy way. We have to see for
But
ourselves. Are you sure
for
that's
me,
poisonous?
yeah. Well, for me, it's like A, so many places that you're told not to go is the best place to go. And B, I don't fear consequences very much. I never had to. When you a consequence usually involves another party, and if you have some control over that other party, then it's not as severe as a consequence, right?
Yeah. Uh, I too have an experience of avoiding consequences a lot through my life with through whichever methodology I needed. And what in retrospect, what I just realized right now is it's always Tine or Fene. So it's either some very creative appeal to emotion that's very unusual, is less likely to be thought of as a trick. You know,
Yeah, people don't know. Well, yeah, but that's the fun part of it.
you can't use a known trick because it would
No.
probably be known to be a trick.
Well, and it's so ingrained in the situation that it can't be a generic one. You know, if you come up with the more clever the way of changing the tides, the more it's going to look like the tide itself, I think. You know, it has to be entrenched in the situation, in the conversation. It has to go with the flow, and it has to evolve. It has to build. It has to. But when you're talking about, you know, I just recently realized I took the first. I took. I didn't know what I was until like 6 months ago. I've never studied the Myers Briggs personality test, which is crazy because I'm an information just whore.
But
But
you always felt like
I
there's
was
either
raised
there's something wrong with me or there's something wrong with everybody else.
that, and then also like not being it's rough when for me I have a lot of mentors and stuff like that, and I'm trying to achieve something, so I need other people to participate. And one thing that people don't like is arrogance. And since I'm so confident in myself, it's hard to know where the line of humility is. Until I just recently came up with a new, I understood. I feel like I finally understand the definition of what humility ought to be anyway, which is an objective view of yourself and others, which is what I think an ENTP can do the best. Um, so you know that was a struggle. That was always a struggle. And then I'm a salesman, and I worked at GNC. I sold to the general public for like 5 years, 5 years, and I would sell. I would sell like $900 worth of GNC supplements for a month and a half supply for somebody. And so I had to realize that, you know, it wasn't really until I left until I left that place that I looked back and was like, that was not a morally okay thing to do.
Right now,
Like
uh,
like like
forgive yourself. It's fine. Look, I'm
I
not
forgive
saying.
my it's
Yeah.
not a burden, it's just
Okay.
something I need to
Okay.
be
Yeah.
sensitive
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Correct. You're absolutely. You got it 100% correct. According to my opinion, we're in agreement 100% on that. What you just said.
Well, and then it's like um and this was the I had a long discussion with damn, I even said his name just now. Now I can't fucking remember. But
Barry.
the
Barry.
Barry, and who again, brilliant, 22 years old. Oh my god. Um, but he asked me questions I had not really even thought to ask myself before, and many of them were like um, about the manipulation aspect of it as a whole, like with
Okay.
trying to figure out
Can,
this.
can I? Let me. Why don't I give you an
Take
analogy?
control.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
This is an analogy I've used before. This explains things well to myself. If you're familiar with the sport of curling, uh, it's an Olympic sport in which one person, you have a team. It's a team like the Canadian curlers. Are you pulling balls too? Oh,
Yeah.
that's funny. Uh, so it's a Canadian team, and or whatever country team. One guy pushes makes a shot. It's kind of like shuffleboard on ice, but here's the thing: they make their shot, but that's not the end of the shot because the rest of the people on the team they're broomers and they broom the ice to make it go more this way or more that way or slow it down or speed it up. Okay, so those are called the sweepers in curling. My position on ENTPs is we're not very good shooters. We're very good sweepers. And what we struggle with in trying to understand how this thing works, the manipulation aspect of it, is what we're not. getting is that we aren't launching shots with the intent of manipulating at all. We've got shots in the midst of flight, and we are sweeping our asses off all the time trying to get it to go to the right place. So that's why it's not actually manipulative. It's it's being an ENTP. I'm trying.
It's being intuitive and understanding, how you're relating to the conversation and the other person's point of view, and then changing the flow of it all to accommodate
But look,
and direct,
but see
right?
that attributes more intent to ourselves than we ought to. That's where the accusations of arrogance come in, and that's where the accusations of arrogance have some meat on them. Is the fact, the reality is, I mean, the thing is, these accusations don't understand this is why they have meat on them, okay? But this is actually why they do have meat on them and why they're right despite themselves, is because it is not actually intentional action on our part, except as a tactical move, and it's always attempting to return things to the proper equilibrium as we see it. The proper equilibrium as we see it is basically everybody's happy, everybody's getting along, and we are well liked most of all. So the thing is, in trying to return things to the proper equilibrium, or in trying to maximize the goodness of the proper equilibrium, I want to be even more well liked. Then that's when shit happens. It's like that's when we make a mistake, and then we got to sweep our asses off so that 2 weeks from now everyone goes, "Oh, we thought he made a mistake." That clever Nick, he's fooled us again because once again his mistake turns out to be a really brilliant idea. It's not
Holy
that
fuck.
it's not that you didn't make the mistake, it's that you're a good sweeper. It's not
The
a
recovery.
manipulation, it's not a brilliant idea. It's being brilliant at taking a bullet already in flight, hopping on top of it and steering it around places.
Wow. Oh, that's some shit, man. I've never heard anything I can relate so much to.
Well, I'm glad
Because
to hear it. That's cool.
it's, it's, I do that shit often.
It's our
I
nature.
mean, because man, I'm all over the place. Professionally, personally, I mean, every time that I tell somebody do you consult with other people? Do you have people that are like your that serve the purpose to ground you?
I mean,
Like I have to occasionally call somebody to make sure that I'm not uh, putting
I
a lot of energy into something that's like
I don't
because
really anymore, unfortunately. But they failed me. The grounders failed me. They erred on the side of caution. They weren't grounding me for my own good. They were piling on top of me trying to stop me from moving.
that's women grounders. In my experience, in my relationships, women are the. I just left my
One dude,
fiance.
one chick, basically. My ex-wife, my best friend. Dude and a chick. It wasn't women, it was one dude, one chick. Dudes can do it too. Trust me. It's feelers probably. It's not dudes chicks, it's probably feelers thinkers.
Hmm, I just feel like I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't let that because with the chick, I couldn't really. I felt like a prisoner to that thing. I had that same, that holding me back and slowing me down and really being more of a more friction than anything. I don't. I guess I've never had a guy that I would
Right, you don't
allow.
have intimate relationships with guys, so it seems like oh it's only the chicks. Well, it's because it's only chicks you're having sex with. You know, it's the sort of thing that would pop up when you have an intimate relationship and it's subject to the kind of pitfalls of intimate relationships are subject to. But I don't like things that reduce women at all. I find it.
Well, when I
I know
say
what your
chicks,
word. Yeah, yeah.
that's how I meant. I meant, you know,
I know. I
don't
know.
do
Hey,
that to me.
I wish I hadn't done that at all to you. I am so sorry. I didn't mean to imply at all that you thought any of this sort of thing. I'm
Don't
explaining why,
apologize to
in
me. It's
fact,
cool.
actually, I wanted to, and I think it was good I did because I would have fucking hated if you did that to me. That's why. Okay? And I didn't. And so I want to correct myself. What I mean is, I am all for jokes about being fussy about feminist shit. So, do I call chicks chicks instead of, Woper children or whatever the feminist one was called? Yeah, I call chicks chicks because, if that doesn't matter. That's not important. But at the same time, I also can kind of overreact sometimes and remember and forget that when you said that, I would say the exact same thing. We could have had this conversation, or I could have been the one who said it. It just could have been a different day. I could have said it myself.
And I could have been the one that said what you said,
Right,
which is
yeah. Because
so.
neither of us
So,
actually are attached to these fucking positions at all because we're
well,
ANTP.
and I say shit that I don't fucking even. You know, when people say devil's advocate, they don't know what the fuck that means unless they've really found themselves balls deep in an argument that they've just. I've become emotionally attached to an argument that I knew going into. I didn't particularly have that viewpoint, but
You
you
became
know,
emotionally attached to winning.
yes, yes. And after, damn, blowtorch, I like it. But I want to go back to your bullet theory. The magic, I'm gonna, the magic bullet
Okay.
monster hit with the manipulation bit of it. You said that I liked your example with curling, and that is when that's usually when I'm doing it, or I have to make a sale, and I'm trying to tell them if I don't want to sell to them as quickly as I am trying to tell them that I do want to sell them. But with women, that's where I struggle because I know I can tell what a girl wants and what I can look at her and gauge what gets a reaction, and then set up my approach with the end in mind, knowing what I need to get her to do to get her to fall in love. For example, um, and this is the story that I told earlier too. So in middle school, I had this class with the most beautiful girl in the school, and this school is huge. There's like over, I mean, I can't even guess.
Okay.
Definitely over a thousand
Well,
students.
I want to cut you off for a second, and I'll have you resume in a second, which is quickly get to the actual mechanism you used because the more important questions I want to ask you about it are not about the methodology, but about what it means.
Okay, so what information would you like? Would you like
The mechanism,
what?
the mechanism you used, you determined first what it is that she liked or wanted, right or not?
I did.
Okay, so walk me through that mechanism from that point forward.
So, um, she liked the bad boys. She liked. So um, I went to a ghetto ass school, and she was into some of the black dudes. And the black dudes in my school were the ones that were causing trouble and just fucking shit up basically. Is the guy that she was attracted to. Now, I'm just this. She was dating a bigger dude, and just somebody of power is how I thought of it. Somebody who can make something happen. So I was this. I was. I weighed a third of the weight that this other dude weighed that she was dating or whatever. And I wasn't big then. I'd already been prescribed Adderall for half my fucking life by the time of middle school. So I was like, I need to make some. I need to exert my dominance in this situation. I need to make something big happen. I need to fucking show that I have power, even though it doesn't look like it. So I convinced this guy. I've convinced the guy that you would have pointed out that would have been him in the classroom, the bigger guy, black dude, ghetto as hell. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory term, just in case somebody else hears this. I know you understand, but I convinced him to do a bomb threat, to call a bomb threat into the school, and everyone got evacuated. And I started out with, I don't want to fucking be here. Let's leave. And she was like, we can't do that. I can't skip class. Well, I'll end class for you.
Wait, is this the chick's boyfriend or what? Or somebody else?
No, no. It's just I had paid attention to her and noticed that he had elicited some response out of her that I could tell was infatuation. So then I made him.
Okay. All right. First of all, that's awful. Second of all, you were in middle school and on Adderall, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you shouldn't feel too guilty about it.
I'm
You
not.
sh-
I feel no guilt towards it. It's just an example of what it is awful, and there's different degrees as to which your power. There's a line that is not always simple when it comes to good and evil as far
Why?
as
Yeah.
using your
Okay.
powers as an ENTP is what I'm
Thanks.
saying.
Thanks, preacher. We here in the choir are enjoying your sermon. Nevertheless, what I'm asking is, what happened to him?
He got charged with inducing panic,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I was. My thought is that is because when I'm persuading somebody, it's to what you said
Nick,
earlier.
let me tell you real clear.
Go
There
for
is
it.
what you do whenever you don't uphold a consistent set of principled ethics, you open yourself up to vulnerabilities in the short term, in the medium term, and in the long term. You don't want to give your opponents those arguments. Not everybody you face will always be a scrub. You will not be able to charm your way out of every argument. If you have shit out there that is like, oh, I'm doing this shit, then you can't call other people out on it because that I mean you have no moral high ground. Whatever it is you want to call people out on, you're limited on the capacity at which you can call them out because you're trying to hide shit. If you have shit to hide, I've gotten rid of all the shit I have to hide. I don't have anything to hide anymore. Why not?
That is
Nobody
that.
can fucking come up on me and try to intimidate me or use anything against me. And I will always put transparency against them. And you can only do it if you're ethically consistent with a principled course of action. And that doesn't mean you can't ever do what you did. It means you can't do it to him because he didn't deserve it. Now, if it was he, now, if on the other hand, this guy was bullying you over time, and somehow you managed to
It
convince
definitely
him.
had happened. Yeah, I wouldn't have done it to a good person. Yeah,
Okay, well, I mean, now if there's enough justice in it, it's fine and correct and righteous and just. Most people wouldn't agree with me on that. I don't want to encourage anybody out there who happens to be in middle school to ever dream of doing such a thing because while this fucker got away with it, you will go down in flames too. Just with the guy who got convinced into doing it. No matter what you think is gonna happen, you will go down in fucking flames. Don't even try it. It's fucking stupid.
can I make sure that I communicated what I was trying to lead towards properly, real quick?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
'Cause first of all, I- you can keep going because I like hearing somebody articulate some shit that I found out the hard way, and some things that I didn't know. But I'm definitely making a point to be able to sit peacefully on my moral high ground. That's very important. And I probably honest too often with shit that I shouldn't be just to prove that to people. Like,
Yeah,
you better
but
fucking take me seriously.
It's
I'll tell
good
you some shit
strategy.
that you don't want to. I'll make you uncomfortable with the honesty that I'll tell you. You know,
Nothing wrong
but
with that.
yeah, and it's
That's all good.
watching people's eyes when I say some shit about myself that I have no emotion. I don't give a fuck. It's very interesting,
Right.
and
Because
that's what I don't relate to.
well, why do people try to why do you do that? The reason you do that is because we understand that if they if we put it all out in front of them ourselves, there's nothing they need to attack us. So that's why we throw that shit out there because it's preemptive, right? It's like, oh, you're going to accuse me of something mildly bad. I'll accuse myself of something very bad right now to prove to you that that's not what we're talking about. That's not the point, right?
I think it's that, and it's there's nothing I like. I dislike more than not being taken seriously.
Well, the other
'Cause
thing is
in
you can use
business,
it as a meta argument later. Look, I'm perfectly transparent about myself, but you continue to be defensive about this. You need to simply acknowledge the factual truth, sir. Right? You can use it as an example later. So it's got double oomph.
fucking goddamn. Uh, wow. Well, the original point of my question was, so I think that everybody puts on a front in life. And one thing that's interesting is that I think that I love people more than just about anybody does, because I get to see, I read online where people say fucking people are fucking terrible, or I hate people, or blah blah blah. It's just you see it too often, and um, it's interesting when I've become to understand what that is when most people really haven't had a real conversation with somebody, nor had somebody take off that thing that they say is themselves because they're afraid of not being liked as who they are. And then when you peel that back and you say and you enjoy the conversation, and they know that you enjoy them for who they are because they just found out and uncovered some shit and still like you. That's a connection that most people I see a trend in less and less people having. But so I know that people already kind of change they change their perception, but it's static. And so, but with girls, it's interesting because like other guys are doing that, but they're not doing it intelligently. So if you can make a girl like with women, I can't. That's where I lose the. Um,
The magic touch.
I do, I do, I do because, and I'm trying to figure it out. I think in part it's because that I'm conscious that I can, I've had girls that I made like me when they really should have been with a completely different kind of person.
Okay, look. The answer to that is twofold. One, you're not supposed to be like that with chicks for us.
I
Be-
know.
because the reason is because we're infantiles, which is to say, in a correct relationship, um, we're taken care of by the woman in a lot of ways, in ways that we don't have to worry about that area thing. We want to be sort of pampered, coddled a bit.
Like
So
bills and cleaning
I mean, we'd love to
and
hand off our.
emotional.
The bottom line is the SI. Okay, if you're familiar with the cognitive function stuff, SI introverted sensing. It's in the fourth slot for an ENTP. It's the inverse of extroverted intuition. The extroverted intuition is what we're doing right now, just rolling off, riffing off ideas, explaining shit, blah 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 blah. The introverted sensing is the opposite. It's the okay. Now it's time to stop playing and clean up and see what we've made. Now let's put this away so we can review what the next steps are later. That process we're bad at. We want to pass that process off onto somebody. We're going to be like, okay, well, I've had my fun. I've done a lot of work here. I've had the play time, the play part of the work. Now, your job is to clean up after me and put it all away and make it orderly and useful again. We want mom to be there in our relationship. We want an ISFJ to do that and the same thing basically in the bedroom, which is like, well, we want to play. And she's like, well, I want what you want, honey. You know, like that.
Wow. Well, and also it is. I want to be told when I'm fucking up. I'll put a lot of effort into some stupid shit.
That you want them to be better than you at FE. That's what ISFJ gives you, right? Because we aren't the greatest at FE. What you're doing right now is you're coming off as pretty charming, but you come off as like a little faker than you are. You're not aware very well, as I'm not aware very well, of how other people actually feel about you specifically. Other specific people, how they feel about you. You don't really know. You haven't really thought about it before. What do you mean, how they feel about me? I know, see, they like me. Well, I mean, specifically, how do they feel about you? Okay, so there's that. We don't know that. We're really good with groups, and we're really good with managing people for specific outcomes. We're not really good with managing people in relationships at all because we don't understand what relationships are. They're not this thing that needs to be maintained that, we think of as either giving us fun or needing maintenance. That's how we think of relationships. What they should be is sort of a mutual growth through intimacy thing that requires us to be way more mindful and grounded than we naturally are. So an ISFJ will bring us down more to grounded and naturally because there's something about them that's very calming that makes INTPs just go like, okay, maybe you're right. Maybe that is too risky. Maybe we should just take a step back without feeling like they're getting any pushback. ISFJs convince us to be smart without pushing back at all.
Damn. Yeah. Somebody earlier said, I'd love to see you and Eric debate, and I'm trying to, I don't think I could, I'm wondering how that would work.
Are you a debater?
I love, well, so I do, one thing that I want to pick up on what you said, and this will lead into this, was you said we're not particularly too aware of how people think of us or something.
How they feel about us.
About how they feel about us. I know how they think, yes.
We're not sure what that means even.
That's what's causing me insanity, sir, because I'm just now starting to realize this in a big way. And I've had to halt my debating because I can't.
Look,
people get
okay. It's like this. For one thing, people go, "Well, I heard that and I read it somewhere." I mean, like ESPs can't tell how other specific people feel about them. And I said, I started thinking about it. And I pictured myself out in the world going, "Well, of course I know how they feel about me. My argument's correct." As though those things were related at all. Well, no, Eric, they don't feel about you that your argument's correct. They feel something like resentment or anger at the fact that you won't let them get away with it.
But I'm very good at also making people feel good about themselves, and that's so. So I also think that I've seen that too many times, and.
But here's the thing. Other people, they feel about us a set of feelings that persists when we're not there interacting with them. And that they feel the same way even if our behavior is different this time. So it's like, we're hanging out with you. How do I feel about you? I like you. You're great. Let's say we start getting in a big fight and I'm mad. How do you feel about Nick? I like him. I'm great. And I'm fucking pissed, And how do I feel about my partner Jean, who has lied to me many, many times? It doesn't matter. I don't have any bad feelings about her. I had bad feelings when she was doing that shit. I'd have bad feelings, I suppose, until I resolved it. But the feeling of not having resolved it yet. But I don't think it sticks to her, right? So it's hard for us to imagine it sticking to other people. My ex-wife, though, she used to always say things like, "Did you think about me today?" And I'd say, no, not really. Did you think about me today? Yes. Why? Weren't you busy? I got the sense that she sort of carried this feeling around for me when she went out into the world or something. It's weird. I don't know. I don't even know what it means,
Have you gotten does that bother you? Has it bothered you?
I'm glad
Because
I
I
know
don't.
it's a blind spot. I'm glad I know it's a blind spot, and I can attribute shit sometimes to the fact that it's a blind spot.
Right, but it's I don't. It bothers me anytime that I don't understand something. It'll frustrate me. I mean, that's
Here,
very important to me.
here.
Like it's on an intellectual level.
You can't understand it. That's the problem. You can't understand it intellectually. As soon as you get into words, introverted feeling is no longer the thing that's happening there at all. It's these abstractions that are thinking stuff. So feelings, they defy. We keep wanting to say, but I don't
I can
understand the
intellectualize
logical
most
function.
feelings.
Yeah.
I can intellectual mo. I can make feelings logical. Feelings make sense to me. Like I know that girls want to be understood and they want to be,
That's not
felt.
understanding feelings. Okay, that's thinking about feelings and understanding logic about feelings. That's not understanding feelings. You don't even understand the difference, just like I don't really understand the difference, although I'm starting to understand the difference more because I've spent a lot of time thinking about trying to experience feelings or allowing myself to experience feelings, shit like that. But what you're talking
You're
about,
supposed to have this shit figured out, man.
I mean, there's the thing. It's our seventh slot. It's our polar, our place of least resistance. We're not equipped to understand it very well because our understanding of understanding is that to understand something is to know it intellectually. But that's not how you understand feelings. You understand feelings by feeling them. There's nothing to go.
Well,
There's no place to go from there. So that's why I'm saying don't freak out about not understanding it because it's not like you can do anything with it.
no, I mean, it's. Well, let me ask you this: how do you feel about psychedelic drugs?
Well, I like mushrooms. I wouldn't take acid again because it lasts too long. I think
When you say you like mushrooms, I mean, what kind of that that made me understand a little bit more about the feeling side of things. Did it
I
have
mean
that?
no.
No.
To me, I don't believe in the powerful any sort of meaningful lessons learned from drugs. I think yes, maybe if you've never done them before, the first couple times you do, that's it. After that, there's no mysticism behind it. It's just your own drugs.
Well, I'm not. I'm not. I think that it. Well, if they alter your brain, and if your brain dictates who you are, and if who you are is an ENTP, then maybe it can make you more sensitive to something that you're otherwise not sensitive to.
Well, it's like any data, to the extent that it's new and providing you a different angle of or perspective on a given idea. I mean, it's all about associations, right? You got these associative connections between different things. So what you're saying is this allows you to draw associations that provoke emotions that you spend some time feeling while you're on mushrooms. Might that help you understand your feelings better? Sure. But that's not any different than anything else that might provoke feelings, except for the fact that
Because,
it's unusual. So if you regularly do drugs, it ceases to have any impact at all. If it's very unusual for you, it does have that impact of being more memorable and therefore more impactful.
I think it's context. Because we may have had different experiences. I've had many different experiences with mushrooms, and only one or two out of the 15 is what's causing me to have such a conversation. Where I'm saying where, um,
Can you articulate the lessons you learned?
no,
Will you remember them when you're 40?
yeah,
Really? Now you will because we're talking about it and it's on video.
um,
You got an
I
anchor point.
can, it's always difficult. So I came up from a very, very strict religious household where doctrine was forced upon me. Then became a staunch atheist, and after understanding that such a thing was possible with mushrooms, whether it was real or not, I had to. Since I was almost certain that such a thing wasn't possible, I could no longer say that a God wasn't possible because I was so fundamentally wrong about the possibility of an experience like that itself.
Interesting.
So
Uh,
it's not it's not
yeah,
it's
you guys talk
to
that
be
that's
taken for what it
humility. You're
is.
talking about humility. No, you're talking about growth in terms of humility in that regard, which is something we touched on earlier. And I think you win the point, frankly. If that's your experience, then I can see the point. Um, the thing I would point out, though, is if you want an actual exercise in humility, what you ought to do is pray. Because, now listen, I want to stress this. That does not mean you. I consider myself an atheist, and I also pray to God. And I think it's an important exercise in humility because that is ultimately where the magic and the magical thinking comes from. Is if you are humble enough to understand that your will, the limits of your will, and that your causal attributions can sometimes be arbitrary, that the reason outcome X happened did involve me in certain components here and there, and it would appear to outsiders that I had some sort of central controlling role in things. But God, you and I know better. That is a humbling, um, place returning, place put returning in and thing that you can do that allows you to sort of outsource the humility to God. And thus, I mean, you don't have to talk about it openly. It's not outsourcing for social reasons. See, this is the thing we have to remember. The FE runs deep, and it gets in our way if we don't let it be executed deep.
That's, I want to, I want to, this is very interesting because this is something that I experienced. I'm going to be very frank about this. So I did mushrooms for humility because it was touted as a ego dissolving experience. Now, when I did mushrooms, I expected to come out thinking I wasn't as significant as I wasn't as powerful as I was, and I'm not all that smart because sometimes that I don't want to get out of touch with reality in regards to delusions of grandeur, but what happened was not anything close to that. I felt like I was God. In a way that I can't particularly. It's not easy. It's impossible to articulate the kind of experience I had. And with you praying, because what you do is you pray to yourself because you know there's no God if you're an atheist. So therefore you're talking to yourself and you're referring to yourself as God. So you're doing the same thing in a sense,
No,
maybe.
no, because you assume that to pray, I have to meet certain logical criteria. I can maintain those logical criteria distinct from prayer. When I pray to an external God. It has to be the grand observer, he who exists outside of me and is all knowing, all powerful, and all loving. It has to be that, or else it won't work.
But you're an atheist that prays to God,
Uh,
an external, all knowing.
You're,
Are,
to,
are you is atheist the right word, or is
Absolutely, because the only
I can't disprove it or prove it.
no
I just don't like
atheist
I
is
don't
the
like
right
any of your
word.
guys'
No
definitions.
agnostics. Atheist is the right word.
Not possible. Something that first of all
There's no reason to argue the weak positions. But of course,
I'm trying to understand.
it's entirely important to make the distinction between a behavior and an argument. Prayer is not an argument; it's a behavior. Atheism is a set of arguments.
But if your argument for atheism is that there is no God and then you pray to a God, I disagree.
My prayer is not
It's
part of the argument. My prayer is a
but
behavior I'm engaging in, not part of an argument. I'm not making claims with my prayer. Am I making claims
well,
to you that you can dispute?
so then what is the function of prayer?
To engage in the behavior of prayer and gain the benefits of magical thinking.
So it's just how you're defining it is what I'm getting caught on.
Well, what I'm
Because
telling you, what I'm saying is
because
not how I'm defining it. It is a conflation with within your existing understanding of it, a conflation of behaviors and arguments, so
I don't
that
think so. I think I think behind what you're saying is true. That I'm obviously missing something. Obviously, I'm not trying to make
well, the reason I
any.
said I'm not, and you may have already begun dissolving this conflation, but you came in with the conflation that says if I'm engaging in a behavior that suggests one would be base that behavior on the following claims, which is, God exists, whatever, then to engage in that behavior is the same as to make those claims. But in fact, we have to sever that because those claims are arguments. The behavior is a behavior I'm engaging in my own head. I'm not making any claims about it. There's no reason to have it involved with the claims at all. It's a separate framework.
I want to say that I'm willing to agree with that wholeheartedly, but I want you to take me to how you got there based on, and the only way, the best way to do that is to tell me why I'm wrong. So if a behavior and a argument, they both come from an idea.
No.
You behave, you
Hold on.
behave.
You didn't get past step one.
Well, okay, let me rephrase it. Why do people pray?
Well, I pray. I don't know why
Well,
people pray. Who cares why people pray? I'm telling you why I pray. I'm describing a behavior I'm engaging in to you. I pray because I learned the habit when I quit drinking. And I prayed then in order to maximize the likelihood that I would quit drinking. I had a very, very utilitarian reason for it then. And it was a very precise utilitarian reason. And the exercise of prayer was done out of desperation more than anything else. For a second, until I realized, oh wait, I this isn't an argument, right? And so at that point, I realized, okay, I will I will do this to the best of my ability, and I will
how did you
utilize what
find?
it provides for me.
How did you? And I'm completely accepting with what you're saying is that doing something and then arguing the logic of something. Participating in a emotional relief or something that helps you, and or just something you do is much different than something that um, you're trying to argue. I mean, I
It's called
understand.
making
You can't
claims.
say it.
Okay, we
Yeah.
have to think of our communications with each other as being comprised of sentences. The sentences are either claims, in which case they're statements of some sort, or they're not relevant to us. They're questions or commands or something. So if a given argument is being made, then claims are being stated. If a claim is stated, it needs to be substantiated if it's going to be upheld. And so
Right.
that's where this whole arguing about whether God exists or not is people are saying, well, people are justly saying, if I'm telling you God exists and you should believe in him, then they are rightly saying you need to substantiate that fucking bullshit claim, motherfucker. But on the other hand, if they're not making those claims, then there's nothing to dispute.
Can you first accept how blatantly obvious it is that one would question such a thing, and that I'm not necessarily doing that. Question you saying, hey, you shouldn't believe in God, but God doesn't exist, but I'm going to go over here and pray to God. Let's start with there at
I'm
least.
not saying you shouldn't anything. I didn't
No,
say
no, no, no,
you
no,
shouldn't
no, no,
believe
no,
in
no.
God.
Let me take 3 steps back. I'm interested in how you got to the point where you started praying when you didn't think there was a God. I'm not interested
I
in
was an
saying that it doesn't make
alcoholic. I needed to quit drinking, and it was a non-rational problem that I couldn't successfully use any of my other tools to solve. Any tool I had, no TI's tool would help me. I could not control myself. I drank all the time. I was drunk like 6 in the morning. I waited outside 7-Eleven for alcohol. I still had a good job and everything, and my wife was about to leave me, and it was just time to quit. So I had tried many times before in the past. I had struggled with it. I went in there and I said, I'm going to put my will and thinking on hold for a little while. I'm going to listen to what they say. I'm going to try to figure out exactly what they mean. I'm going to try to do exactly that thing. I don't care how fucking stupid it is. I don't care if it means putting a green hat on my dog and going whoopity 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 all day long. If that's what the fuck they tell me to do, that's what I'm going to do.
awesome.
Best thing that
That's what I
ever
was looking
happened
for.
in my life,
That's what I was
right?
trying to understand. That's what I was trying to understand.
And so
That's
they taught
cool.
me to do this one trick that I actually kept because it's useful. That's
And
why
and
you
you
asked for it.
and how often do you pray? Because I'm about to try this shit.
very not super often. But the thing is, the way I pray now, I don't even pray. I just play this game. Why did that weird thing happen? What am I supposed to take from this? And I'll come up with a set of magical meanings that are possible narratives that basically expand my existing reach and expand my existing will and desire for things. Okay, but I'm always able to. God gets infinite begging the questions, so I'll conclude like God must mean this, and I'll try to pursue that. And that wasn't right. And I'll go, well, I was wrong, and then I go to the next one and I go, see, God was right, like that. That's how it works. Basically, it's a directionator that'll like, frees you from having to come to terms with the existential challenge of trying to figure out where the fuck you make decisions from. It's impossible to figure out. You can't determine
That's brilliant.
when you actually make the decision and
No,
why.
I understand.
Yeah,
I
so
understand.
it's like nitrous oxide up your butt. You're just like I don't have to think about that anymore. Fuck.
Fuck. I need that.
Yeah, you can totally turn it on and off too. People think they're gonna get stuck there. Like, oh well, right now Eric's believing in God. That's such a ridiculous statement because I am believing in God actively sometimes, and most of the time I'm not thinking about it. Vast majority of the time it's not. It's there. It's available, but it's on it's on rest mode or something. Yeah.
It's entertaining an idea without accepting it.
It's permitting yourself to have by a switch where you can say, I accept it, I reject it, I accept it, I reject it. I don't have to ascribe to that same. Just because I accepted it yesterday doesn't have to reject it. I can reject it today. I am not bound to any habitual relationship with this thing.
That's something that I don't think really many people could do. I mean, I totally understand what you're saying right now, and I'm also understanding how many people would have just would not be able to do such a thing.
Well, they tend to say I don't really believe in God, and I say I really don't make that claim. Why are you making claims about my relationship with God?
I'm not making any claim.
I know. I'm saying that's how I'm responding to hypothetical guy standing over there who's saying this to me. I'm sure you do that too. So when
Quite often.
when hypothetical guy says to me, "You don't really believe in God, though. That's not really believing in God," I say, "I'm not making that claim. Number one, I'm not claiming I believe in God, and number two, why are you questioning my relationship with God?" Like that?
And then that leads into something that is quite enjoyable, where you are then having an argument.
Well, yeah, and then we're having fun, right? Because
Yeah.
I don't care if I'm not trying to argue for God's existence. That's the thing. So this is they think they're getting into a different argument than they're getting into.
So what you just did, were you trying to elicit an argument from that very topic? When we were,
No, I wasn't trying with you. I'm just trying.
No?
I'm actually trying to talk to you, as like I talked to Taylor, and maybe one or two. Now you're younger, so I'm not quite able to, but it's very close. Where when you get two NTPs who are, they're put it this way, every individual human being has a stat skew, and our stat skews are similar, you and me, and Taylor, okay, so. We skew high in the same areas, and we skew probably, I would guess, low in the same areas. But this particular medium highlights the areas in which we skew high. So,
it's for me, it's difficult because typically I have to find a unique differentiator to. That's usually how I'm navigating a conversation. Is I'm looking for something that they're bringing up that I know that I can change their opinion on, or that I can, I'm never very different to communicate with.
You're used to managing the subtext less directly. And you're used to having to manage it. You're used to being the one who has to manage the subtext. The other person doesn't get the subtle shades of shit, and you're trying to determine how subtly to shade shit because you know you're not sure what they're
It's
gonna
almost
get.
like it's almost like it's too clear right now. Like,
Wait, I mean, for you, well, look, it's the thing is, it's easy when you accept that. Oh, wait, if I stop constantly, because we understand the subtext stuff, and we get like, oh, this is playing like this is playing like that, that's playing like this. It becomes it becomes difficult for us to distinguish between describing how shit plays like and trying to control how shit plays like. It's a tricky line to walk. So as a consequence, when we if we talk about it directly and you meta up and make sure that you sort of attack each of our um, not even shortcomings, but just sort of stat skews directly and frame them right, then all of a sudden you can reference back to that and it empowers all sorts of other shit.
well, I hear what you're saying, and it makes sense on one level, but on another, just for context, this for some reason I haven't. I think maybe horoscopes or some just too many shitty personality tests completely made me disregard looking into the correct way of evaluating or the most scientific or pragmatic way of evaluating personality. So this is new to where I'm able to articulate, where I am on the spectrum and then put it in reference to other people. It's a very fucking strange thing. When did you first say? When did you first realize? Oh, it says I'm an ENTP, and that. What the fuck? Damn, that's crazy. That what I'm reading right here. Like this. How was? I didn't think I was. I thought that I was just a fucking. You know.
When I read it,
I
I
didn't
was
know I
about 30.
existed.
I was about 30. It was quite a while ago. But the thing is, back then, there was no cognitive function stuff on the internet. It was just Myers Briggs stuff. And I got type descriptions. The first one I read, I cried. I mean, I burst into tears because I finally understood what was wrong with me or why I was different or whatever expression I wanted to use my whole life. Trying to figure out, like, Jesus, I do not fit in this whole spiel here is not well suited for me. I am like
It didn't give any solution.
I'm like a tropical parrot in the Canadian forest here. It's it's not a good
God,
match. So
no.
and then when I read that in MBTI, I felt a great sense of relief to be part of a group, which is the first thing I'd ever felt that way before. Because I don't like groups. I'm sure you don't like groups either. You don't want to ascribe to any other group's set of rules or ideas or whatever. You want to piecemeal together your own. And ideally, you'd like them all to be as original as possible, influenced as little as possible by outside sources and stuff like that. All that other crazy nonsense that we do. Um,
And I realize when people are in a group when they don't really realize it themselves, and that bothers me. But it
but
is
yeah,
quite relieving.
because unlike every other group, this group, we all are actually the same. The real ENTPs, when I encounter the other ones of us, we're all the fucking same.
Do you cry during movies?
Oh yeah, I'm a fucking huge crybaby, dude. I cry all the time.
Me too, man.
But it's the
Are you an alpha male at the same time? I would say you definitely take control of shit. And you're like that's how people describe me in the past as like kind of an alpha male, but like a soft. Does that
yeah,
yeah.
gotta shake them loose and give them a little bit more room there, the boys. Uh, yeah, I am all those things for sure.
Did you get in a fight when you get in a lot of fights when you're younger?
I had a few physical altercations, but for the most part, I avoided physicality. And I had one fight as an adult. I actively disavow fighting, and I strongly discourage younger ENTPs from fighting or getting into any kind of physical conflict. It's it's too high risk to reward impact. and you can get your manhood back other ways. If you got bullied or
Well,
whatever, I don't know.
maybe you were just smarter than I at that age. I mean, I take the same stance as you now,
Okay, well then, yeah,
but
I'm not talking about.
I'm just saying.
I wasn't taking a
I,
stance when I was a kid. I just happened to get into a few. I had a couple triumphs, I had a couple of defeats, but I managed to avoid serious scrapping. That's all. Um, how damaged were
I,
you? How damaged were you by shit that happened to you in your childhood? Did you come out of adolescence feeling pretty good about yourself?
Probably the most ideal childhood you could have.
School
Really,
and home, or most? That's your home for sure, and sort of your school, or your school for sure, and sort of your home.
school. When you say damaged, I mean, I didn't. I almost failed high school. I mean, I had to go into like there was this thing called A plus where like I was surrounded with just people who weren't smart enough to be able to participate in class, and I just didn't want to. I just didn't go to class. I didn't I didn't I didn't
Nick,
participate in school.
Nick, class was boring. Okay,
Very fucking boring.
nobody can blame you for not going there. It was
I don't
totally
blame
fucking
me.
boring as hell.